All right. So, S&P 500, bulls are still in full control. We had daily consolidation on Friday. We know the burden of proof is on the bears to lose the daily uptrend at this point. And what looked like Friday, what was going on, in my opinion, just with the way that we had the financial sector staying at the high of the day all day, or most of the day, staying strong, and the tech sector with a big sell-off, it looked like some sector rotation to me. We saw semiconductors pull back and the tech sector pull back, but the financial sector remained strong. So potentially even just some profit taking from the tech sector as over the next 2 weeks, both this week with Microsoft earnings, next week with Apple earnings, and of course we got Amazon, Google, and other names in between. We're looking at the potential of just some profit taking before we head into the heart of earnings season for the tech sector. Bottom line is the financial sector is taking us higher. We've got a pretty solid gap up open shaping up in the financial sector this morning, while QQQ is not seeing a gap up open. So SPY is seeing a little gap up open as a result of that. So just looking at the daily time frame for the S&P 500, SPY just looking for a daily higher low to form. The fact that we're going to likely break the high of Friday today means that our daily higher low is likely set now at 296.99. And we're going to be looking up at resistance. 324 is the highest price we've seen on this move. That's the next level. And then the all-time high of 302.63. So again, as we've talked about in the recent past, there is still opportunity for hedging to go on or for bearish plays to be made as long as we're just top fishing that all-time high, because of course the last thing we want to be doing is fighting the trend and not stopping out when the bulls do prove continuation to us, if they do, of course. So that's where we stand as we start the week, and we have the hourly time frame for SPY. We're going to be looking at anything above the end of the day's sell-off on Friday to be an hourly higher low. So anything above 297.95 is an hourly higher low, keeping the bulls comfortable pretty much to start this morning and to start the week. Even if we pull back $1 plus on SPY, we are just looking for an hourly higher low. Dollar has continued its weakness. We have a little double bottom the last 2 days, so the bulls are hoping for a daily inside bar. That would just mean that the bulls are holding on to a short-term temporary support. If we do get a bounce going, we know we're just looking for a daily lower high to form, and my focus has now shifted. Now that we've lost the weekly uptrend, focus is now on the monthly trend to see, can these bulls keep the monthly uptrend that's been intact for almost 2 years at this point. And that level 95.84 is one of the key levels that's going to be on watch for me for the rest of the year. Checking in on gold. So gold is still trading sideways a little bit, although the bulls are showing up first thing, trying to break the daily inside bar bullish, which we just did. So keeping an eye on the bull miners today, because gold bulls are up at the high of the day, and we've got silver bulls much stronger. You can see silver is seeing the highest price that we've seen in 7 days, whereas gold is only seeing the highest price we've seen in 2 days. So a very distinct difference between those two, but the bottom line is short-term bulls are showing up. And I highlighted in the commodities video over the weekend, and I highly suggest everybody watch it, a setup for the bull miners in a descending triangle pattern on the daily time frame, and watching all the little puzzle pieces lining up for the potential of the bull miners to show up if we do get a bull break in the precious metal space. So that's going to be on watch for the rest of the month as well. We've got oil still trying to see continuation, still trying to negate the weekly bear flag, because this is absolutely a weekly bear flag right now. And we have a tightening range on the daily. We have our high of 54.91. The low of the pullback is down at 52.36. Lower high at 54.60. And we're heading back down towards that support. If we see an oil bear break of 53.18, it will be notable. The odds of a weekly bear flag will increase very significantly. And again, if oil breaks 50.51 support, which is our key weekly level, with a lack of support below it, that will have an impact on the S&P 500 in my opinion. And it will be hard for me to be as bullish if we do break that support. And I should say it will be hard for me to be as bullish the S&P 500 if oil breaks its 50.51 support. So that's going to be a key level to be watching for the next few weeks as well. Natural gas pulling back in a big way. So we do have the potential of our inverse head and shoulders pattern shaping up, where we have our left shoulder, our head, double top at the neckline, 2384 and 2376 is our little neckline resistance zone. and now we're looking for a right shoulder to try and form. Bulls have to hold 2178 for that daily high or low, and the more oversold on the short-term time frames, the better for an entry to play off of that support. The hourly RSI already oversold this morning. 4-hour RSI would have a ways to go to get there, but for the next few days, watching for a daily high or low to try and form. And then, of course, we know the bulls have to prove to us the daily trend change, breaking that neckline of resistance for our weekly high or low to be set. And last, we got Bitcoin, the bulls breaking short-term resistances, but anything on the daily chart under 84.69 is still a lower high for me. So the bulls still have proving to do. And at this point, just fending off the bears by holding support initially, but it is still a weekly bear flag. Similar to oil, burden of proof is on the bulls. I need to see the bulls over 9,000 if I'm going to say that the weekly bear flag is negated. So plays that I'm watching today, as I said, I'm going to be watching the bull miners for the rest of the month. Bull miners are going to be testing their recent highs. We're watching the falling wedge pattern, keeping in mind that we could stay within this falling wedge for another week plus if we do just set a lower high compared to 28.38. Anything under 28.38 is a lower high. We're going to be testing our downtrend resistance to start this week off. And if we pull back, we'll look for a higher low to form compared to 26.19. So bull miners are on a top watch, again, just for the rest of the month, not necessarily today. And as far as the other bulls are concerned, we have a couple support tests coming up first thing. Netflix has been pulling back. We're looking for Netflix to just set a base of support for the reaction to earnings because we have not set a reaction to earnings low yet. 273.36 is the low of Friday. And we're going to test that level first thing. So we may see another leg down on Netflix if that level breaks first thing. But again, just keeping an eye over the next couple days to start this week for a temporary bottom to be set. We're also going to be watching the volatility in Roku. Roku bulls are looking for an hourly higher low to form compared to 124.79. It's showing some relative strength compared to what the market is doing this morning. But with the size of the bounce that we saw Friday, we're going to anticipate that an hourly higher low is more likely than just a straight drop to a lower low. So 124.79 is a support level to be watching, and our key resistance is 131.59. So I'll be watching those volatile names, and biotech sector always has my attention, and watching for the potential of a bearish entry as 79.93 is key resistance, and we saw a significant bounce from the low of Friday. So if we start this morning all bulls on the biotech sector, I would expect a lower high to form compared to 79.93, and right now trading right around 79. So that level will potentially be in play, and a potential bottom fishing play for LABD with the low of Friday down at 21.80, keeping that on watch as well. So let's get into individual names, and we'll start it off here with BA. So BA is seeing a lot of weakness after the dump on Friday, and we're seeing a gap down open in the 334s this morning. So big drop. We're now looking down. Next support level on the daily is 328.88. Hourly RSI is crushed. 4-hour RSI also crushed. So it is worth watching for an oversold bounce. As we know, RSI levels can get extreme when it is a news-related reason for a drop. 333.79 is the only support level from pre-market. And the bulls have to, of course, change the 5-minute trend for us to zoom out and look for an hourly lower high to form. But it is worth watching for the potential of a short-term oversold bounce just because we are so extremely beat up. Always want to protect, of course. So CMG, the weekly range is tight still, but the bulls have favor. We had a bear break on the daily equilibrium that saw no bear follow through. So that's keeping the bulls confident as well. But I'm watching the high, low, lower high, higher low, and we're testing that resistance right now, 851.80. If we break that level, then it's just the all-time high. So 851.80 and 857.90. Key levels, our daily higher low to try and keep the bulls in full control is 815.61. And here was our bear break that lasted one day. We held 800 psychological and then went straight into a daily trend change. So that is keeping the bulls confident on the weekly time frame coming off that all-time high. No red flags on the consolidation since that all-time high. Amazon, the bulls are hoping for a daily inside bar after the big sell-off on Friday. So they're just hoping to hold that low of Friday, which we are well above right now. 1749 was that low. We've got short-term resistance, the high of the Friday afternoon bounce at 1768. If we reject from 1768 first thing, we're looking back down. There's another hourly support, 1757 before 1749. So pretty much just an hourly tightening range right now with the low, high, higher, low. And if we cannot break the top of that bounce, 1768, it'll be a lower high and a continued tightening equilibrium. So a key resistance test for Amazon coming first thing. So Netflix, we're watching that low, but it's likely to break. And now it's even more likely as a gap down open is setting up. So this would be, let's see, the next support level we're looking at is 265.03 on the daily time frame. We're not too beat up as far as RSI levels go, so we can definitely continue to see some weakness here. And we will need a 5-minute trend change to be looking for any kind of hourly bounce to get going. But it is looking like the low of Friday is more likely than not to break first thing this morning. ILMN. It's a lot to try and wrap my head around as far as the clear setup of what you're asking about. So it is a temporary bull flag. At this point, if 307.18 were to break, the odds of a bull flag decrease significantly, but we would still be looking for a daily higher low to form. And as far as the next resistance, even if we do confirm the bull flag, there's a lack of resistance nearby, so it could be worthwhile, as we are in gap fill territory after 312.47. So that's a key level that the bulls would want to break. As far as the hourly time frame is concerned, need an hourly trend change. Anything under the high of Friday is just an hourly lower high. We have to hold the low of Friday, break the high of Friday, and that would give us an hourly trend change that would increase the odds of the daily bull flag following through. Roku's looking for a daily higher low to form. Very large range on Friday. So again, bulls trying to hold 124.79 first thing. Low of Friday, high of Friday's bounce, and now we're looking for a higher low to try and form. And then we would have to break 131.56 to change the hourly trend from there. But first things first, the bulls are just trying to hold 124.79, and the goal for the bulls is a daily inside bar today to just put a stop to the significant pullback from Friday. And it's an interesting setup here where we are looking for a weekly lower high and we are looking for a daily higher low. So at least initially, we're anticipating the daily uptrend to remain. And if we form the daily higher low and then fail to break resistance and then lose the daily uptrend, our weekly lower high will be set. So definitely a bit skeptical being a bull at these levels, knowing the bigger picture is likely for a weekly lower high to be set within the next week or two. And short term, it's all about the low of Friday. JNUG. So JNUG is in a falling wedge, or I should say GDXJ is in a falling wedge, just like GDX. Daily inside bar from Friday, we're going to be testing those resistances. First thing, 61.68, 61.83. Of course, the bulls have to break those levels to see follow through, but while that would be a short-term bullish reaction, anything under 69.29 is still a daily lower high. So we can't lose sight that we are in a daily downtrend. It's just the kind of daily downtrend where the bears do not get much follow through when we drop to those lower lows. So anything under 69.29 is a daily lower high, keeping the downtrend intact. Best case scenario as far as ease of clarity for bulls, in my opinion, would be another lower high, then the higher low, and then the trend change and bull break of this potential daily falling wedge. So I'm not going to be too bullish these minors short term because I would like to see ideally one more lower high. It's one of those scenarios where if the bulls were able to just go straight up and break their resistance levels, we'd be extended when we were testing 69.29, and I wouldn't be confident in the amount of follow through the bulls could see from breaking that resistance level, as opposed to if we do stay in the downtrend with one more lower high, form a higher low, then the bulls would look for some significant follow through from breaking a tighter range. Hourly on JNUG, anything above, we'll call this little consolidation at the end of Friday our hourly higher low at 58.97. BYND, getting crushed, but a little bit of strength here pre-market. It looks like could be some kind of news. I would assume it is. 5-minute bull flag trying to form here. Daily time frame. Anything on the daily under 126.49 is a lower high. Hourly chart. We're breaking short-term resistance of 111.03, but we're looking at the high of Friday first thing once the bell rings. So 115.39 is the first resistance level to be watching, and if we reject from that level and see profit taking, then it's a daily inside bar setting up. If we break that level, we're looking for a bounce to cool off some daily RSI, but we will just be looking for a lower high compared to 126.49, at least initially. And the biggest red flag for the bulls here would be 5-minute consolidation until the bell rings, inability to break the high of Friday, and then a drop down to lose the 5-minute uptrend. So no red flags on the consolidation ongoing at the moment, but we don't have a clear 5-minute support level established yet, but that may change in the next 13 minutes before the bell rings, and the bulls are certainly hoping to have a clear support level to be watching once that bell does ring. So Disney is a daily trend change here without much follow through, which means we have to be cautious of a weekly bear flag, which is absolutely still in play at this point. On the hourly chart, we closed near the low of the day on Friday, so we're seeing a bounce right now, and pretty much anything under the high of Friday is an hourly lower high. So bulls are hoping for a daily inside bar to form, but as far as changing the hourly trend, we'll have to top out under the under the high of Friday most likely. Then we'll have to hold the low of Friday and change the hourly trend if we're going to be looking at any kind of continuation of this daily trend change. But again, when you see a daily trend change and the reaction is an upper wicket profit taking, more profit taking, and then more profit taking, that is a sign of a lack of follow through. Whenever you see a daily trend change, you want to see increasing bull volume, bulls piling in, shorts covering, and these two candlesticks are not showing us that at this point. So hourly trend change is needed for the bulls. JPM. So again, banking sector, financial sector showing us strength. We do have a double top up at 121.59 to be watching, and we're going to be testing that level, although breaking it looks like. So 121.59 breaking means just daily continuation. We haven't even consolidated for a daily higher low to form in a while. Double bottom, I would say, Thursday and Friday. So I would call our last higher low still down at 115.66. But we are breaking resistance, and the next level we're looking up at is going to be, wow, that's the all-time high. Didn't know JPM was that close to all-time highs, but that's where we stand right now. So a gap up open to all-time highs. 123 psychological resistance will be next, and anything on the hourly above 120.52 is an hourly higher low. And I guess I should have looked at the two words after your ticker request to let me know it was blue sky. GS. GS is a daily inside bar, obviously nowhere near blue sky. Big difference there. So looking at the potential of a higher open, but we have 208.06 resistance and 208.93 as two short-term resistance levels that have to break. So bulls just trying to continue this move, keeping in mind that we are absolutely looking for a weekly lower high to be set. We still have a long way to go before 221.50 resistance. So watching for a weekly lower high to be set and to stay in this equilibrium for a while longer. And we can anticipate that's most likely because we have the financial sector performing really well, and GS is clearly standing out as weaker. Just comparing, here's XLF and their weekly equilibrium. We're looking up at resistance. We're much closer. GS is much further away. So bulls trying to play some catch up. We have to get over 208.93 to see this move continue and to prevent from that weekly lower high being set just yet. SQ losing the daily uptrend. So again, we knew a weekly lower high was coming as the most likely scenario, and we are now rolling back over. So we need a weekly higher low to form compared to 54.41, and then we would have to turn around and break 64.55 to change the weekly trend. But as far as the big pullback day, we will now be looking for a daily lower high to form when we do bounce. So the hourly chart, bear flag at the end of the day Thursday, or end of the day Friday, getting a little bit of follow through. So trying to negate that bear flag with a higher open this morning, but we know we're just looking for an hourly lower high compared to the high of Friday. The goal for the bulls would be a daily inside bar today, which just means holding 59.78. We don't have an hourly trend change. We're just going to be looking to top out at some point today. Then we'll need the hourly higher low and higher high to see any kind of follow through. But the amount of profit taking that we saw on Friday definitely shifts the momentum from short-term, little slow and steady higher lows and higher highs to a very convincing bear move that took out multiple weeks of slow and steady bull action in one daily candle. So again, we will just be looking for a daily lower high compared to 64.55 as the most likely scenario. PFE. So PFE is looking like a weekly equilibrium setting up here. 33.97 was our low, high of the bounce, higher low, and we're scouting a lower high compared to 37.76. As far as the hourly time frame goes, you could say that we changed the hourly trend here with the Friday afternoon action. So we'll be looking at the high of Friday as short-term resistance, 36.70, 36.81 right behind it, and then all focus will be on 37.76 because that's going to determine, can the bulls change the weekly trend with a higher low and higher high, or are we going to stay in a tightening equilibrium pattern? So short-term resistance levels being tested first thing, then we zoom out to the longer-term level, which will take importance from there. ETHE. So weekly time frame, anything under 41.90 is just a weekly lower high, so that's the bigger picture. As far as the daily chart is concerned, we're just looking for a daily lower high compared to 37. Anything under 37 is a lower high on the daily. Hourly chart. You could say that's an hourly trend change with a little higher low and higher high. The volume makes it harder to do technical analysis because there's gaps with no volume traded or very insignificant volume traded for hours. So it does make it a little bit more difficult. But just bigger picture, I would be looking for a daily lower high compared to 36.99 at this point, and for a tightening range to form. And that lines up with what we're looking at on ETHUSD at this point, where we're looking for a daily lower high compared to 188.58, as we are still in a daily little downtrend at this point. S&P 500 short. So as I mentioned first thing this morning, yes, there is a top fish there as either a hedge position for a long-term bullish portfolio or even just a straight-up bear entry. As long as the stop level is set, it certainly played out well for the bears the last time this setup was here with the double top when that formed, and bears would be hoping that it ends up being a triple top. OSTK. So OSTK is a weak daily trend change, 1228, and actually we never even really changed the daily trend, but it is a weekly bear flag right now. So we failed to break 1228, that's a lower high, and now we're looking back down at the low of consolidation, 1030. So 1030 is the must-hold support level for the bulls, and if they hold it, we'll just be in a little equilibrium in between this range. So high, low, lower high, bulls have to hold 1030 for a higher low to form. Checking back in on BYND, which did react to that news. 5-minute time frame, still trying to build a support level before the bell rings. There are ETFs that trade against the dollar. They don't have a ton of high volume, and I've never looked at them for day trading because of that fact. I've never traded the dollar in my life. The only reason I use the dollar is just for looking at inverse correlations with commodities, which have been weaker than they have been in the past 2 years. I'd say over the last 6 months, they've been a lot weaker. DIS. Already did it. ATVI. So ATVI got the bull break, and this is what I'm talking about where we see a bull break, but I prefer a tightening range. So if I were going to enter on a bull break of ATVI, I would have wanted to see a lower high, a higher low, and then a bull break. Instead, we went straight from 51.45 into a bull break, and we get no follow through as a result because the bulls are exhausted by the time that resistance level breaks. So we had a long lower wick on Friday, and the bulls are hoping for a daily inside bar. If we cannot break 55.82 resistance, a daily inside bar is extremely likely. So high of Friday, key resistance level to be watching. And you could say the daily uptrend has been lost with a break of 54.01 here. I personally, due to the dip buying, the long lower wick, I would consider the daily uptrend still intact at this point, but the weekly time frame could also be forming an equilibrium with the high, low. If we can't break 57.52 and we do see a bit more daily weakness, we'll call that a lower high being set, and then we'll look for a higher low and a tightening weekly range. But as far as the short-term action goes, it's all about the high of Friday resistance this morning. So X is trying to change the daily trend. We have to hold 993 and break 1175 to do so. It's definitely a bit choppy on the daily time frame. As far as the weekly chart goes, building a base down around $10, but still lower highs every single bounce attempt. So on the weekly chart, 1266 is the most important resistance. Bulls have struggled to get anything going. So burden of proof certainly remains on the bulls. Anything under 1175 is just a daily lower high. Oil significant pullback. Support test of 52.36 could be incoming this morning. Upwork, weekly time frame. Anything under 1541 is just a weekly lower high. Daily chart looking a little toppy with the pullback on Friday. Short-term resistance will be 1462, a little double top. Daily time frame, anything above 1350 is a daily high or low, so the bulls have a lot of space to work with. We're going to anticipate a daily high or low is going to form. The question will then be, if we lose the daily uptrend from there with a lower high and lower low, has our weekly lower high been set? So a big turnaround. Any bounce on the hourly, we're just looking for a lower high to be set. You could consider 1462 our hourly lower high, or you could consider it the high of Friday. All depends on your trading style. But a notable short-term shift in momentum, similar to SQ in that regard, and we'll see if the bulls are able to recover to keep this daily uptrend healthy. SEDG. So equilibrium stands out here with our high, low, lower high, and higher low has now formed at 82.68. Anything under 90.50 is just another lower high, staying in this tightening range. Hourly is in equilibrium as well from 86.68, high, low, lower high. So you could be watching the hourly equilibrium, and then depending on how that breaks, we zoom out and we watch the daily equilibrium setup. Bulls are hoping for a bull break to continue this move, to not have set our daily lower high yet, but we could easily stay within this daily equilibrium for most of this week. But worth watching for that eventual break. MPC. Bulls in complete control on the daily time frame here. Weekly chart. Next major resistance level is going to be 68.74. Daily chart. I would say anything above 59.56 is a daily high or low. Hourly uptrend. Anything above 64.45 is an hourly high or low. So we got a daily and an hourly uptrend that are still pretty strong for these bulls. And we're going to test that high of Friday first thing up at 65.54. And then we'll look at 66 psychological after that. So here's the open. I'll get back to the other tickers in just a second. S&P 500 bulls. SPY is breaking. Thanks to the financial sector, SPY is breaking the high of Friday, just barely at this point. SPY does have a little 5-minute lower high from pre-market, so you could technically say we're losing the 5-minute uptrend with pre-market levels. And bulls definitely want to be a bit more convincing here. Breaking the high of Friday by 10 cents is not enough, so we'll see if the tech sector can get their act together and try and catch up to the financial sector strength. But it is looking like QQQ, daily inside bar, is probably the most likely scenario. Anything under 193.67 for QQQ is a lower high. So that's a potential top fishing play if the bulls were to run up to that level pretty fast this morning. I'd be looking at that as a potential top fishing resistance play. XBI is heading up towards that resistance that we were talking about pre-market, 79.93. So we'll see if there's a top fish there on the biotech sector. Netflix weakness standing out. The low of Friday on Netflix, 273.36, has already broken. It's the only red tech sector name on my screen. Apple bulls, all-time high has been hit, so that's certainly helping the tech sector this morning. And the financial sector confirming its daily bull flag and continuing its breakout. Now we're looking at 28.67, very key weekly resistance on XLF. So I'm watching for an XBI potential top fish with the high of Friday, a QQQ potential top fish with the high of Friday. And if SPY consolidates at any point today more meaningfully, we will just be looking for an hourly higher low compared to 297.95. Back to tickers. So MPC, nice start for the bulls. We're looking at 66 psychological from here now. ABX.TO. So it's also a similar falling wedge to what the miners are seeing, as it's a gold stock, but we are just looking for a daily lower high compared to 24.24. Currently a daily inside bar is setting up, although we're only 2 minutes into the day. Key support is 22.34, the low of Friday, and resistance is 22.84, the high of Friday. So we're watching the range of Friday. Bulls are hoping that we're not setting our daily lower high already, because that would continue to favor the bears. The bulls want a bit more upside to create space on the daily time frame for a higher low to try and form once we do top out. DOL.TO. Weakness in CGC first thing, so that news pre-market didn't really do anything for the bulls. Pulling back, Kron's pulling back down towards 8 psychological, and ACB, APHA, so the major Canadian MJ names standing out in the red, but we do have some green in the US MJ sector. Curaleaf trying to lead the way. Hexo's down big as well. So for DOL, big, long, lower wick first thing this morning. Let's see if that was real. Looks like it was. Looks like a first minute of trading, big, long, lower wick, and now we're at the high of the day. So a little bit of interesting action. The bulls are buying the dip at this point. Anything under 46.74 is a daily lower high, or is just a lower high compared to Friday. So have to break that level for bulls to try and prove anything. But a very clear daily and weekly downtrend at this point. The weekly downtrend just started with our recent lower high and lower low, but the daily downtrend pretty clear at this point. So if we fail to break 46.74 resistance, the bears are going to keep their short-term control, and we will likely trade within this first 5-minute candlestick for a long time with the size of the range on it. KO. KO weakness first thing. We're into the gap fill on the daily time frame. The gap fills at 54.12. So we're not there just yet, but we're right on the verge of it. Anything above 53.13 is a daily higher low. So the daily uptrend is not at risk right now, but a lot of profit taking from the gap up open on Friday. So we'll have to set a base of support and then see an hourly trend change for our daily higher low to be set. Anything on the hourly chart under high of Friday is just an hourly lower high. So keeping an eye out on the gap fill. Looks like there's news for Curaleaf on the lockup, which is why we're seeing a little bit of green this morning, I assume. So they extended the lockup, which was, 55 million shares due this week, maybe even today. So that's leading to some short-term bullish action. So SPY Bulls still holding on just fine. Financial sector is, again, just on absolute fire the last 2 days. Holding up so well Friday and now just blowing through short-term resistances today. IIPR. SPY Bulls getting a bit more convincing follow-through now, thanks to QQQ hitting a new high of the day. Netflix has seen some very significant dip buying. We'll look at Netflix in just a second. So IIPR is already dropping to lower lows on the daily time frame. We're already oversold on the daily chart. The next support level is 66.55 after 70 psychological. So bears still in full control. Anything on the hourly chart, our new resistance is now 73.47. So hourly downtrend, weekly downtrend, daily downtrend, all still intact. So Netflix bears are starting to keep an eye. I mean, we've seen a monster $5 bounce in the first few minutes of trading here. And Netflix bears are going to be watching resistance of 278.03. That's our hourly resistance that we're currently slowing down just under. That was the high of the bounce attempt on Friday. So 278.03 is our key short-term resistance. Apple bulls having nice follow-through on the all-time high. 240 psychological is next. VFF. So VFF, we're watching the potential of a falling wedge on the 4-hour time frame, and I'm also watching the 4-hour 12-period exponential resistance, which has been rejecting the price consistently. Anything under 712 is just a 4-hour lower high. As far as support goes, 650 was the low of Friday, so that's our short-term support, and it's setting up for the potential of a daily inside bar. Again, fairly wide range on Friday. Not a whole lot going on first thing. 708 resistance, 650 support. And if we can see a daily inside bar form today and then break it bullish tomorrow, that would be the potential of the 4-hour falling wedge breaking bullish. Our AD. So RAD on the daily time frame is looking for the daily higher low to form, and it looks like now with the higher open this morning that it has formed at 858. So 858 is our new daily higher low of support, and the bulls are shifting their focus back up on the recent high of 964. Have we changed the hourly trend convincingly? You can say with the higher open we have after Friday's trading. And if we set a lower high compared to 964 and then drop down and break 858 support, then our weekly equilibrium will continue to play out. So 858 is now the most important support level. At this point, natural gas is just going to be an hourly oversold bounce, and we're going to look for an hourly lower high to form. But yes, establishing a game plan to try and play off of 217.8 support is definitely the setup that we've been keeping an eye out for. So VFF is standing out on the Canadian MJ side of things, watching that 708 resistance. SFIX. So weakness in SFIX first thing. Daily inside bar is likely. Resistance 2367. We're pulling back a good bit from the high of Friday resistance, but we're also well above the low of Friday, 2237 support. So I would call it an hourly equilibrium with Friday's range right now. And I would turn off extended hours to keep it nice and clear. Just as far as visualization goes. So MU bulls showing up in a big way first thing, as are NVDA bulls. So it looks like after some profit taking end of the week last week in the semiconductors and in the tech sector, that they're seeing some money come right back in fairly quickly. MU, again, it's all about the high of Friday, 45.04. Just looking for an hourly lower high compared to that level. And again, daily inside bar. If we can't break 40, it's actually 44.98, the high of Friday. If we can't break 44.98, daily inside bar, extremely likely. So that's the key resistance to be watching today. Curaleaf, that bullish reaction to news did not last long as we're quickly back in the red with most of the rest of the sector. So that rejection from Netflix resistance by about 21 cents, getting some nice bear follow through in the short term. Let's see how BYND responded to the open. Never really established any clear 5-minute support at this point, so that's still what the bulls are attempting to do. after the pre-market strength. So Disney broke the low of Friday. Bulls trying to defend it, but still a bit of a setback by breaking that support. So Roku, we held that low of Friday, 124.79. We held that by a solid margin. So now we're shifting our focus to high of Friday resistance, 139.07. Certainly not anticipating we're going to break that level. So again, another name where a daily inside bar is very likely based on where we are trading at the moment and how big the range is from Friday's candlestick. Nice recovery on CGC, trying to slowly make its way back to the high of the day. As Cron has made a very quick recovery as well to its high of the day, up a few percent from the low. So Cron bulls are hoping that we can put a stop to the bleeding and set a bottom from all those after hours shenanigans we saw last week. CBSI, we're watching the low of Friday, 2048. So Netflix bears now getting even more and more follow through. We're going to watch for a Netflix 2-minute equilibrium due to the amount of volatility here first thing. So we're scouting a 2-minute higher low to form compared to the low of the day. XLNX. So XLNX, if you're looking at the pre-market levels, actually, nope, you don't even have to. You're looking at high of the day, low of the day. We just set a lower high, pretty much a double top by 3 pennies, and it's much more clear on the 2-minute time frame as opposed to the 5. So a little double top on the 2-minute time frame. We're now looking for a 2-minute higher low compared to the low of the day. Hexo with weakness first thing this morning. Breaking the low of Friday very quickly, so our top of the bounce has been set now at 301. 301 is our new daily lower high, and now the bulls must hold 228 for a daily higher low to try and form. The bulls gave themselves a good amount of space to work with, so we will anticipate, at least initially, that we will form a daily higher low compared to 228. So MJ sector here is trying to shift momentum. We're seeing it in Cron. We're seeing CGC test the high of the day. A little bit of green in the USMJ space, not much. But VFF still standing out, watching that high of Friday. WDAY. Bulls must hold 151.06 low of Friday. We've been dumping for 3 days now. And bulls need a support level established. So a 5-minute trend change, if we can see a 5-minute trend change while holding the low of Friday, that will increase the odds significantly that a daily inside bar will be the most likely scenario. So 151.06 is the must-hold support. Short-term resistance, high of the Friday bounce was 155.11. High of today is 155.20, so a little double top at that level. BA, big pullback, so bears still in complete control of BA. Big gap down open. We'll need a 5-minute trend change for the bulls to prove anything. We're testing 5-minute exponential resistance right now. But certainly some nice volatility on names like Netflix and BA in both directions. We just saw a bounce, $5 bounce after a $9 pullback. Apple quickly to 240 psychological. It is clearly giving confidence to this tech sector just in a broader market sense. Financial sector still just under the high of the day, remaining strong. Netflix, there's a bottom fishing play approaching with the low of the day. After the really nice top fishing play versus resistance, we're going to be looking for the bulls to form a higher low compared to 271.61. And again, we're just going to anticipate a 2-minute higher low on Netflix as the most likely scenario, and then just a 2-minute lower high. So we're not looking for any kind of major gains, unless you wanted to try and set a stop loss at break even and hope that the 2-minute equilibrium could eventually break bull. Roku's potentially setting up for a 2-minute equilibrium as well. We hit the high of the day. We pulled back and held 129.76 as a 2-minute higher low. We just failed to break the high of the day. So tightening 2-minute range on all of our volatile names first thing this morning. QQQ is down near the low of the day, so we talked about the top fishing play with QQQ's high of Friday resistance. We got within 51 cents of it. As far as XBI's resistance, we got within 29 cents of it. And we will need to see SPY pull back more convincingly for any of those top fishes to play out with some solid worthwhile gains. And again, for SPY, it'll all be about the hourly support of 297.98. So Netflix trying for that 2-minute higher low. Roku bulls have to hold 129.76 to stay in its tightening 2-minute range. New high of the day for CGC. So following along with the other names that shifted their momentum. Increasing bull volume on the 2-minute time frame after hitting the low of the day on CGC was a bit of a short-term clue. And CGC held that low of Friday by 13 cents. So next resistance is 2089 and 2091, the double top from Thursday and Friday. And so far, the consolidation from our temporary bounce top being set is healthy as the bulls look for a daily higher low to form. Checking back in on Tesla. Tesla's daily consolidation is underway to try and form a higher low. Tesla support will be 255.10. If the bulls can hold 255.10, it'll be a daily inside bar. If they can't, then the daily consolidation will continue. So that's the support we're going to be watching. ZYNE. All bears to start the morning after opening right at resistance. 847 was resistance. 847 and 848, a double top from Thursday and Friday. We opened at that level and saw nothing but profit taking. So support is 782. 8 psychological and 782 for supports. Bulls need to change that 5-minute trend back in their favor after a morning of all profit taking. So notable second day in a row, just like Friday, where the financial sector is much stronger than the tech sector. Netflix trying for a 2-minute higher low, but still struggling to get any kind of meaningful follow through. Facebook bulls are out in the lead today, along with Apple as far as tech sector. It had a really nice 2-minute equilibrium that's testing resistance right now as we're testing the high of the day, 188.31. 2-minute equilibrium's all over the place this morning, first thing. And Facebook is still extremely likely for a daily inside bar today. Friday's range was huge, and we're still right near the middle of it. 191.49 is resistance on Facebook after the high of today. And same thing for Amazon. Huge candlestick on Friday, and we're right in the middle of the range of it. Nice follow through for CGC, inch by inch. 2091 is the resistance level on CGC from here. BA bulls need to break 330.44. Roku with a 2-minute test of support, 129.76 breaking. So short-term bear break on Roku, which now shifts our focus to the low of the day support, 128.50. So Netflix has set that 2-minute higher low. And we're getting some follow through. We're now going to be looking for a lower high compared to 277.82. And this pattern's starting to be drawn out enough that we can use the 5-minute time frame to just condense things down a little bit. Or stick to the 2-minute if you prefer a bit more detail. Biotech bulls still holding on well. We're still under the high of Friday, but not getting much pullback from that resistance at this point. Bull miners, after seeing some green to start the day, have seen very little follow through. So again, the fact that we're anticipating daily lower highs to form is still notable, and GDX resistance, the top of the bounce, was 27.35, and we rejected from 27.30 this morning. So inability to get any follow through on a resistance break for the bull miners. If I were going to be looking for a bearish entry on Netflix, I would want to see the price closer to the high of the day, which is our 5-minute lower high. Or I should say we would be looking for a 5-minute lower high. But I'd want to see the price up around 276 personally to have that risk to reward worth it to me. AMTD has seen a really nice slow and steady recovery from that dump. We're definitely just looking for a weekly lower high to be set. But bulls are keeping up momentum in their favor with a higher low and higher high each day now for the past few days. So Netflix is favoring bears with how this 2-minute bounce is going. 273.01, 271.61 short-term supports, new resistance, 274.70. And Roku is fading after its 2-minute tight range broke bearish. We're fading back towards the low of the day. And if SPY gets a new low, that's only going to help bears in all instances. And of course, we're going to be watching the financial sector low of the day, 28.34, which is approaching. If that level breaks, the SPY bears can definitely get a bit more follow through. If XLF holds 28.34, we know the SPY bears aren't going to get much follow through. Again, XLF is going to be our guide. It's the safety net for the S&P 500 bulls at this point, as long as it holds up strong. As QQQ continues to hit lower lows. It seems like just a less severe version of Friday. Friday was pretty fast and hard as far as the moves went. So it'll all be about XLF in the low of the day for the SPY bears to try and get some significant follow through. TEVA. Strong start for the bulls this morning, up near the high. But we're still not breaking the high of Friday. 788 is the high of Friday. If we lose the 5-minute uptrend without breaking 788, odds of a daily inside bar will increase. Short-term support, I would say anything above the low of the day is still a 5-minute higher low. We haven't really established a clear 5-minute higher low yet. So a handful of names testing their lows. VFF failed to break the high of Friday and is now pulling back more convincingly as well. Netflix held its low of the day by $1. We'll see if the bulls can get anywhere with that. So with the oil bounce, we're going to be watching for a 15-minute lower high to be set compared to 53.60. So potential oil bear entry. When our 15-minute lower high has been set, we can use the 2-minute time frame as a potential guide. If I'm looking for a 15-minute lower high, the loss of the 2-minute uptrend is potentially the first indication of that 15-minute lower high being set. ALGN, I would say we're going to likely see some profit taking before earnings. This is the kind of setup where, as you know, I don't like to play earnings, but I like to play moves into earnings. And the fact that we've seen a bull move the last 2 weeks in a row with a higher low every single day for the last 10 days so far, I would be surprised if we didn't see any profit taking before earnings. And we're setting up for a daily inside bar today. So if we see the inside bar break bearish tomorrow, then some of that profit taking will take place. So again, XLF held the low of the day. SPY not seeing much downside on the new low of the day that it saw. And XLF is shaping up for a potential 5-minute tightening range. Low of the day, high of the day, we just held a higher low, and now we'll see if we're going to set a lower high compared to 28.48 resistance. MPC, nice start for the bulls, but we need a 5-minute higher low compared to the low of the day to try and establish support. Daily chart made it up over 66 psychological, but just barely. If we were to lose the low of the day, we would zoom out and look for an hourly higher low compared to 64.98. But no red flags on the amount of bear volume or anything like that, so we are looking for a 5-minute higher low here. So Netflix bear break. So how could we anticipate Netflix was weak? Well, number one, we rejected from hourly resistance. It was just an hourly. The high of today is just an hourly lower high compared to the high of the Friday bounce. Number two, the size of the pullback that we saw was significant enough that we know best case scenario, bulls are going to pull off an equilibrium. We then saw our 2-minute higher low with very little follow through and immediately gave it right back. And as soon as we break that 2-minute higher low attempt at 273.01, we know a test of the low of the day is likely. And of course, now we have a break of the low of the day, completely erasing all of that odd $6 move that we saw first thing. And I say it's odd because the bears had complete control. We had some news that I have not read, but superficially it appeared to be bearish, just as far as potential dilution of increase in shares. So now we're looking down at 270 psychological, and the next price level is 264.57. So the most important thing for me on the rest of the day is the tightening XLF range and how that's going to break. Tesla's now in the red near the low of the day, so we're seeing one by one a little bit more weakness creep into individual names. We've got the biotech sector pulling back a bit more significantly now, unable to break its high of the day initially, or high of Friday. Nat gas needs a 5-minute trend change. We're testing the low of the day here. Decent little 5-minute bounce, but we never saw a trend change. We gave back most of that 5-minute bounce. If we do drop to a lower low and the hourly RSI gets in the teens, I will begin to get interested for a play off of 217.8 support. Right back to the low of the day for CGC. So MJ sector weakness continues. Cron right back to the low. APHA is at the low. So some very short-lived relief. And SPY is testing the low of the day. As QQQ continues to just hit new low after new low. So we had the top fishing play on QQQ, which is playing out much better than the top fishing play on XBI at this moment. And support on QQQ, our hourly higher low from Friday is 191.63. So XLF now has a 5-minute lower high, and if we see a break of 28.38, we are now in a 5-minute downtrend if that happens, and then we're looking right at the low of the day. So if HEXO were to get into hourly oversold conditions, which we are close to, our hourly RSI is 34. If we were to drop into hourly oversold conditions, I'd look for the potential of a bottom fishing playoff of 228. I'd want to see the price ideally in the 230, so it would be very low risk. We'll see if this weakness keeps up today. XLF held support. SPY's long lower wick on its 5-minute candlestick is reflecting that. MCK new low of the day. So daily consolidation very clearly underway as soon as we broke the low. Again, it's one of those patterns where we have a higher low every single day for 8 days in a row. And first thing, we broke the low of Friday, 149.33, and we're getting huge follow through. So the next support level is 142. And anything on the 5-minute time frame under 148.45 is a 5-minute lower high. It's one of my favorite patterns for short-term trades. If we see like Tesla on Friday, 10 days in a row of higher lows every day, breaking that pattern, it can make us confident in a bear trade for that one day, for a day trade, because we know we're looking for a daily higher low. We don't want to get too bearish, but the overdue consolidation certainly underway when that pattern breaks. And the likewise when we're looking for oversold bounces, 10 days in a row of a lower high every single day, break that pattern as we look for the short-term bounce to take place. SPY at this point, I would consider anything under the high of the day as a 5-minute lower high on a bounce attempt. So personally not seeing any screaming setups that are standing out to me. There were a few first thing, but I like to give the first 15 minutes time to play out in the morning as I'm catching up on tickers usually and just a bit more distracted, and that requires the most attention the first 20 minutes of the trading day. But we'll see if any tight ranges develop into the afternoon or late morning that are worthwhile. Natural gas is attempting to hold the low of the day, at least initially. So looking at UGAS, low of pre-market is 1230. And bulls trying to hold 1242 at this point. If we do get a bit of follow through, we'll have a 5-minute equilibrium to be watching on natural gas. BYND gave back all of that move. So never established a 5-minute support. And now we're just looking down. We already broke the low of Friday, it appears. So bears back in complete control. And we have support at the low of the day, and then 105.56, the low of pre-market. So a higher open with all profit taking. XLF bulls want to see a break of 28.44 after holding 5-minute support. If the financial sector can break bullish, this may be SPY giving us an hourly higher low. So there goes natural gas, 5-minute higher low and low of the day defended. Decent little follow through on UGAS. Bulls still want some more follow through for this 5-minute equilibrium to play out. IIPR, nice V-shaped recovery from the low of the day straight into a new high. We have not changed the 5-minute trend yet, so we do need a 5-minute higher low and higher high. Resistance from Friday is 73.47 approaching. I would consider anything under that as an hourly lower high. So 73.47, most important resistance, and bulls need a 5-minute trend change. Tesla's already seen a decent amount of profit taking from its resistance, keeping in mind that we did break a key weekly resistance level, and then we had some gap to fill. We have already pulled back 3.5+% from our top. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a bit more pullback before looking for a daily higher low. Right now, it's all about 255.10, which is the low of Friday currently holding. If 255.10 breaks, we're going to look down at 254.12 as the next level. BYND on the 15-minute time frame. You could say it's a double bottom down at the low of right before that, or the initial reaction to that news. I would need to see more follow through to be looking for a 15-minute equilibrium. I need to see the bulls back over 110 to say a 15-minute equilibrium is forming. But right now the bulls are hoping for that, and they're doing everything they can to defend the very little support that we do have from pre-market. So Roku broke the low of the day by 29 cents straight into a bounce. Anything under 131.95 is a 5-minute lower high, but the size of the bounce gives the bulls some nice space to work with for a 5-minute higher low to eventually form. Still sideways on this financial sector. Trading in a fairly tight range right now. So I'll be watching natural gas for the rest of the day in case that hourly RSI does drop down into the teens for a playoff of 217.8 support. So Netflix, we're looking for a 5-minute lower high. Pretty much anything under the high of the day is a 5-minute lower high. QQQ will have to change the 5-minute trend, same as SPY, in order to set an hourly higher low. Both QQQ and SPY are trying for hourly higher lows. SPY bulls are hoping that XLF can break its tight range bullish and ideally see a new high of the day to make the bulls a lot more comfortable in SPY. Apple making its way back to test its all-time high, 240 psychological. And the Netflix bounce is certainly correlated to SPY right now, just this little 15-minute bounce attempt. So definitely the kind of day when I just compare it to Friday, where Friday I had more confidence and clarity of direction, where I could say, you know, we're looking at Roku bearish, we're looking at Tesla bearish, we're looking for losses of the hourly uptrend to indicate daily consolidation. And now that that played out, today's action is less clear for me. So that means I may not trade today. Apple is right on top of resistance. It's a triple top at this point, so it's a 5-minute or 2-minute ascending triangle. With key short-term support is 239.10 on Apple. And the bulls are just fine as long as that 5-minute uptrend remains. So both QQQ and SPY are creating some decent space on the 5-minute time frame to try for a higher low whenever this bounce does top out. And Roku has had now an even more impressive recovery. Right at its 5-minute resistance of 131.95. Natural gas still grinding right above the low of the day. Bulls are playing defense, but they're not doing anything on offense. Roku high of the day test, straight from the low of the day, 132.48. GE at this point, if I were looking for a bearish entry, even just looking at the 5-minute time frame, I know I would want to see a bounce for a 5-minute lower high. As far as the daily chart goes, multiple tops, 910, 90, let's see, it goes 907, 909, 910, 912. But we broke the pattern of a higher low each day of the last few days, so we are consolidating. We're looking for a daily higher low to form compared to 861. So if I were looking for a bearish entry, we also have that weekly equilibrium, which is potentially looking for a weekly lower high. So if I was looking for a bearish entry, I would want to see a 5-minute bounce. I would want to try and make an entry on that 5-minute lower high, and then I would probably want to exit if the bulls were able to change the 5-minute trend. I would want to get stopped out because the ideal scenario would be to enter on a 5-minute lower high and then drop to a new low of the day. But the reason I wouldn't want to enter now, even though we're not oversold on the 5-minute time frame, we have pulled back 2.5% essentially in the last 40 minutes. BA. At this point, we're just watching the high of the day resistance as the most important level, 333.90. 5-minute higher low is 327.24. So we do have a little 5-minute mini uptrend to be watching, but the bulls would have to break the high of the day resistance to see any kind of follow through from that. PTON, weak all morning. Anything on the 5-minute time frame under 23.45 is just a 5-minute lower high. We're in an hourly downtrend with a lower high and lower low after today's action. And a daily equilibrium. Recent IPO, our daily top was 24.80. Friday is a lower high at 24.68. Tons of profit taking as soon as we could not break that level. And now we're looking for a daily higher low compared to 21.40. SPY keeping that 5-minute bounce going. At this point on SPY, it seems best to switch to the 15-minute time frame. And if we cannot break the high of the day on this bounce, we'll have a 15-minute lower high being set and the potential for a 15-minute equilibrium to be on watch. XLF has been in this 4-cent range for the last 30 plus minutes or so. Still patiently waiting for short-term direction on the financial sector. And the bulls will be positioned well in the market as a whole if the financial sector bulls are able to head back to the high of the day. So Roku went from high of the day to low of the day to high of the day. The OH discount will be in play until OH is no longer trading because the deal is going through. Until that moment, there is still discount to potentially be had I don't know what the calculation is at the moment. But I do know that bulls would have expected some kind of news release at this point. So there is potential that that discount maybe has grown a bit today due to the lack of a news release, unless I missed something, but don't think so. BIMI. Looking for a 5-minute higher low compared to the low of the day after double topping at the high of pre-market. So $8 is a double top. And I would be using the 15-minute time frame and including extended hours action because it's a clear equilibrium. High of pre-market, low of the day, lower high is our high of the day, and now we're looking for a higher low compared to 632. So a tightening range, including pre-market levels. Facebook has done a pretty good job of holding on at this point. Facebook keeping its gains. We have Apple failing that all-time high. That double top remains, as does the ascending triangle. So let's draw this pattern out. 2-minute time frame has a bit more detail, but it's a really good one. And we're going to be anticipating a break sometime in the next 10 minutes or so. I would still consider anything above, actually it can last longer than 10 minutes, could be 20, but anything above 239.10 is a 5-minute higher low. So this is what this pattern looks like. Horizontal base of resistance. Top fishing play for bears playing out very quickly at this point, but still not a significant pullback. We would have to see a break of 239.10 for the top fishing bears to get some significant follow through. And that's what it looks like on the 5-minute chart. Twitter with a nice new high of the day. Anything on the daily chart under 40.46 is a daily lower high. The bulls have been struggling with the daily 12-period exponential resistance pretty much every single day for 7 days in a row. And we have lost the weekly uptrend with this pullback over the last few weeks. But we are still in a monthly uptrend. Very clearly, as long as 34.04 holds, so the bulls have a lot of space on that monthly uptrend. So volatility on Netflix, that's for sure. Oh man, Netflix is a top fishing play. What did I say? Getting up to 276 would be a... I was talking about earlier before the new low of the day, but that extended of a move, heading back towards the high of the day. We have definitely seen names like Roku go from straight from low of the day to the high of the day. But I'm going to be scouting a potential entry here. Bearish Netflix. Top fishing, high of the day, 277.82 resistance. And even though it's a different sector, if we do see the financial sector break its 5-minute sideways range bullish, that would keep the bulls in the market happy, and that could help Netflix bulls make their way to the high of high of the day, 277.82. So with my strategy right now on Netflix, I made one initial entry right here, and I will make a second entry just around 277 and then stop out of both if we were to break 277.82. And for this play to get any follow through, we would have to see QQQ start some 5-minute consolidation with SPY as well. I don't think the Canadian election has much to do with MJ at this point. I don't think the Conservatives would do anything as far as rolling back law changes. So XLF is testing its resistance. And right now, Netflix is pretty much tick for tick doing what QQQ is doing. So I'm certainly paying attention to both charts. Target for the Netflix will be mid 273s. I would exit. So now that I'm in a Netflix bearish trade, I want to see XLF break its support. And again, even though it's not the same sector, XLF breaking its support would pull down SPY a bit, and that could only help my Netflix short for any kind of correlations that SPY pulling back would have. And at this point, that Netflix trade is pulled back over $1 from where I entered, so I'd pretty much just put a stop at break even at this point to have zero risk on the trade. Could be a 5-minute bull flag on Netflix as well, which is why I do want to protect with a stop loss at break even. So right now, QQQ and SPY are not doing what I want to see, but Netflix is. So that makes me a bit more comfortable knowing that any pullback in QQQ or SPY from here will help Netflix towards my target. But again, staying protective because QQQ bulls are holding on real well right now. It's a very short-lived consolidation on QQQ. So it could potentially be the case for Netflix as well. Market bulls are looking good with the size of this QQQ recovery as QQQ is looking back at the high of the day. XLF just has to break its 5-minute range bullish, and SPY bulls will be content. Natural gas getting followed through to give us that equilibrium setup as a potential play. So nice bottom fish off the low of the day. QQQ is just really pushing hard for the bulls here. Not the right environment for Netflix bears. So switching from a manual stop now on Netflix to automatic level as I'm about to stand up from the computer after I wrap up. And again, my target will be another $1 to the downside. Shop bulls have made a very nice recovery from the low of the day. But a daily, let's see, we broke the low of Friday. Not by much, but we did break it. Short-term resistance of 320 on the hourly broke. And now the next clear resistance level is the high of Friday, which is a ways away of 335. Certainly don't anticipate breaking 335 today. So we'll look for a lower high compared to the high of Friday. Let's see, the 15-minute time frame from Friday has resistance. 324.24 is the next level. So as we wrap up the morning webcam here, our eyes are still on XLF sideways. Again, this 4-cent range is now pushing on almost an hour of trading. QQQ still very healthy, which is keeping Netflix 5-minute consolidation pretty healthy as well. Stop loss at break even on that short entry as we were looking for a lower high compared to the high of the day on Netflix. Apple still in its 5-minute ascending triangle to be watching. XBI has a double top at the high of today. We broke resistance by 3 pennies. So now our focus shifts to the high of Friday. I don't like the top fish as much just because we've established a 15-minute high or low. We're not overextended heading into that resistance level. So hope you'll have a good rest of your morning. I'll be back in 15 minutes to continue coverage in the chat room. We'll see if we get stopped out of the Netflix short. And I'll see you soon. All eyes on XLF still. That's going to dictate some short-term direction depending on how that sideways range breaks. SPY bulls pretty much need a bull break on XLF if we're going to look at the high of the day. And again, if I'm bearish Netflix, even though it's not my sector, I definitely want to see, I would prefer a bear break on XLF.